Okay, guys, so we're going to go through this warm-up first. And so what I want you guys to do is you're going to be multiplying by this 5, right? You're going to take this 84,433 divided by 4, because we're going to use the quarter method to find out what I is. So we're going to take 8,433 divided by 4. When we do that, we get 2,108.25. And if you remember, all we're concerned about is this change right here. That's 25 cents, so that's 1/4. So that's going to be I to the first, which is just I, right? So that's going to be 5 times I, which is 5I. So our answer was B here, okay? Now, number 2 says solve this. So to solve this, we're going to do x squared minus 36 equals 0. So we're going to add 36 to both sides, right? So that's going to give us x squared equals 36. Remember, we're going to take the square root of both sides. And when we do that, anytime we take the square root, remember, we're going to put plus or minus over here, right? Plus or minus. That's going to be plus or minus 6, okay? So C was our answer. So our ticket out the door for Monday's lesson was this. So I'm going to use the box method to do this. So I'm going to do 3 and a minus 5I. And I'm going to do a 4I and a minus 6. So again, to do this, we're multiplying, right? Because that's the operation when we have two sets of parentheses next to each other. This is going to be 12I. This is going to be negative 20I. This is going to be, what is that, negative 18. And then this is going to be 30I. Now this time, because they weren't in descending order, notice that our like terms are right here, right? So we're going to add 12I to 30I. That's going to be 42I. So we've got negative 18 plus 42I. And then, oops, where did it? Yeah, oh, I missed this. Did you guys catch this? I made this mistake. So when we multiply I times I, that should be negative 20I squared, right? So this is going to be minus 20I squared. Recall again that we can change out that I squared for a negative 1. So we're going to have negative 18 plus 20 now, because negative 20 times negative 1 is positive 20 plus 42I. So this is going to be 2 plus 42I. So we have a quiz on Thursday, and just reminding you guys that the Delta Math homework for the week was assigned last Thursday, and it's due this Thursday, okay? Tutoring this week, Tuesday, 6:30 to 7:10 in my room, 1.567, also in the afternoon in Miss Kennedy's room. On Wednesday, 6:30 to 7:10 a.m. again in Miss Dim's room, and then Wednesday in the afternoon from 2:15 to 3 in Miss Reiner's room. So we're going to talk about conjugates today. So this is an introduction to conjugates. So to create a conjugate, what we're going to do is we're going to put a number in standard form first. So we're going to put it in standard form first. And we talked about standard form already. So that means we are going to put it in A plus BI form. So the real part first and the imaginary part second. To create the conjugate, we're only going to change the sign of the imaginary part. Of the complex number. We're not going to change the sign of the real part of the complex number, okay? So when we do these, we're going to have A minus BI and A plus BI. These are conjugates of each other, and you should be able to see that the only thing about this changes is the signs, y'all. So if we started with a negative, it becomes positive. If we started with a positive, it becomes negative of only the imaginary part, okay? And down here it says, when the complex number is written with the real part first and the imaginary part second, it's called, again, the standard form. And this is not on y'all's notes, but I'm just reaffirming that to y'all, okay? So if we are we're going to go through some examples together. So 5 plus 3i, this is already in standard form. So again, we're only going to change the sign, only this, of the imaginary part. So this is going to be 5 minus 3i. With b, again, we're only changing the sign of the imaginary parts. This is going to be negative 2 plus 3i. And notice we don't have a real part of c, so this is going to be negative 10i. And D, notice with D that it's not put in standard form first. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to do 2 plus 5i, put it in standard form first, because then I know that this is the only part that changes. So it's going to be 2 minus 5i when I put it, when I write the conjugate of 2 plus 5i, okay? So you guys try these. Come back to me when you're done, okay? So first of all, 3, the first one is 3. So there is no imaginary part of that one, so this is just 3, right? Number 2 is 4i, so this one we're going to just negate. Again, remember the imaginary part. That's the only part we're changing the sign of, okay? So this one's negative 2 minus 7i, again, only changing the sign of the imaginary part. This is 5 plus 6i. Now notice with number 5, it's not put in standard form. So I'm going to do that first. Negative 2 minus 8i. So when I change it, it's going to be negative 2 plus 8i. That's going to be the conjugate. Okay? With number 6, again, I'm going to say 1 minus 3i. Then I'm going to change it 1 plus 3i. So remember, only changing the sign of the imaginary part, okay? This one, again, put it in standard form first. Then I'm only changing the sign of the imaginary part. So hopefully you guys notice, again, changed this, right? Changed this, changed this, and this, and this, okay? Only changing the sign of the imaginary part. Okay, so when I do this one, it says, what happens when you multiply the conjugates with each other? So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply these using the box method, 8 and 6i, and then 8 and negative 6i. And some of y'all already know what's about to happen because you recognized it from yesterday. So 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 6i is 48i. 8 times negative 6i is negative 48i. And then we have negative 6i times 6i. So that's going to be negative 36i squared, right? So hopefully you guys see pretty quickly that when the sign changes between two binomials that are essentially the same and only have a difference of sign, the middle terms cancel each other out. Okay, so now we're going to combine what's left, 64 minus 36i squared. And as it was with the last lesson, we're going to change this to a negative 1, right? So this is going to be 64. And then if we multiply negative 36 times a negative 1, isn't that going to be positive 36? It is. And 64 plus 36 is 100, okay? So what type of number did you get when you multiplied the conjugates? Yep, it's a real number, right? It's not an imaginary number, it's a real number, okay? So we're going to do a couple more examples here. So it says write the conjugate of the complex number and then multiply it. So the conjugate, remember again, we're just changing the imaginary part. So that's going to be plus 4i. And now I'm going to go ahead and multiply these two things together. 12 minus 4i, that was our original, right? So here again, if I do this, I'm going to actually go 12 and minus 4i down here, and I'm going to create my box right here. That's 144. That's going to be 48i, negative 48i, and negative 16i squared. So once again, notice these cancel out. So we've got 144 minus 16i squared. The I squared can be changed to a negative 1, right? So that's going to be 144 plus 16, because once again it changes signs. So that's going to be 160, right? All right, let's do this over here. Now I'm going to put this in standard form first because then I know I'm not going to make a mistake. And I'm going to multiply that by 10 minus 8i, okay? So I put it in standard form first. Now again, once again, I'm going to put my 10 and my negative 8i out here, and I'm going to use my box method. Okay, so 10 times 10 is 100. This is 80i and negative 80i. And then that's going to be negative 64i squared. So once again, these cross one another out. And some of y'all are just going to remember this as you work more and more of these. So we have 100 minus 64 times I squared, right? Remember again, this changes to negative 1. So this is going to be 100 plus 64, which is 164. All right, let's see if you guys can do these last three on your own. Come back to me when you're done. All right, so on this one again, I'm going to write it in standard form first. Then I'm going to write its conjugate. Okay, so this is going to be negative 2 minus 9i. Once again, using our box method, I'm going to put the negative 2 over here and the minus 9i over here. And some of y'all don't need to use the box method because you're seeing what's happening here. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. This is going to be negative 18i. This is going to be positive 18i. Then we've got negative 9i times 9i, so this is negative 81i squared. Again, canceling out, right? So we got 4 minus 81i squared. That becomes a negative 1, so this is 4 plus 81, which is 85. Okay, again, you can pause me, come back to me when you're done. So this one is 1 minus 7i, and so my conjugate is 1 plus 7i. So I'm going to do my 1 minus 7i here. Again, do my box. 1 times 1 is 1. This is 7i, this is minus 7i, this is minus 49i squared. Again, notice here, these cancel out, so this is going to be 1 minus 49i squared. That changes to a negative 1, so this is going to be 1 plus 49, which is, yes, 50. All right, last one. Again, this one, notice it's not written in standard form, y'all, so I'm going to go 5 minus 3i. That's standard form, so its conjugate is going to be what? 5 plus 3i, okay? So we're going to multiply this. I'm going to put it down here, again, for our box purposes. 5 and a 3i. 5 times 5 is 25. Some of y'all have already seen that these middle terms cancel out every time. So this is going to be negative 9i squared, right? So this is going to be 25 minus 9i squared. This changes to a negative 1. So this is going to be 25 plus 9, which is 34.